leaving millions without power for days. Joining us now is Aaron Douglas of the Texas. Unusual amount of power generators, they say, are out for outages.
Yeah, so what's happening in Texas right now is that there's a very high amount of electricity use due to the hot weather, so we all crank up the air conditioning. At the same time, there's a significant amount of power generation, so the power plants that produce the power are offline unexpectedly this week, and that's what ERCOT is warning about, because supply and demand have to be in balance at all times on the grid. Otherwise, we have uncontrolled blackouts is very, very bad. So the first step is to ask the public to conserve power, and that's what ERCOT has done at this point when that margin starts to get low. And then one of the last steps is to do what's called controlled outages, but at this point ERCOT is saying the outages to consumers are pretty unlikely.
One of the things we learned from the deep freeze a couple of months ago was that Texas wasn't connected to the federal grid, and that's one of the reasons why the problems there were so severe. Have there been any discussions about connecting Texas to the federal grid so that there won't be these kind of persistent problems?
Yeah, there were conversations about that during the most recent legislative session, but that's an idea that didn't really gain a lot of traction in terms of policy. And then what we did pass during the session were lawmakers, required some companies to upgrade their power plants to withstand more extreme weather, but that's something that's not going to really take effect and have the rules ready in the implementation for years, I would think. So, there were steps taken during the legislative session, but there are not the sort of policy updates that we would need for this summer right now.
So no solution on the horizon, it seems.
Well, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I think that, policymakers are really thinking about this hard. And, some experts are calling for some demand side programs that would pay customers to reduce their power supply. And that's another idea that didn't really gain a lot of traction during the session, but we're seeing a lot of talk about that right now. Pretty interesting, ERCOT could not provide details as to why so many plants are offline this week. It's very unusual to have this many plants unexpectedly go down this early in the summer season. It's 93 degrees here in Houston right now, 97 tomorrow. It's hot, but it's not, hot for Texas summer level, and these plants should be able to perform in these conditions. So we're waiting to see what ERCOT will find out as to why this is happening.
Aaron Douglas of the Texas Tribune, thanks for your time, and thanks to you for spending the hour with me. Eamon Moadine picks up our coverage coming up next.
Struggling to manage my type 2 diabetes was knocking me out of my zone.
Weigh in real quick on
my A1C with once weekly.
What they're talking about here in regards to the grids.
As your business changes.
What these professionals are not taken under consideration properly and promptly is the fact that it ain't just about the heat. It's about our fundamental grids that hadn't not only been replaced because they're old, but they have much more of a strain on these grid systems that's producing this electricity to the customers. What they haven't put into the equation is that Dallas, Texas has grown in the past 30 years. It has just absolutely exploded with their population. And not only is it like that in Dallas, but it's like that in it's like that Albuquerque has grown, Houston has grown, and it's not just that way in Texas, but it's all over. Somebody is not putting into the right equation that, hey, yeah, we're going to build this particular grid today, but we need to build it probably 3 times stronger or bigger today. That way it will make up for tomorrow of the increase of all the people that's going to be pulling off of that same grid. It's the same way with the problems that they're having out in California right now pertaining to their water level. Whenever you have people that's locked up in their homes for the past year pertaining to the COVID, the pandemic, they're going to take more showers. They're going to wash their hands more. They're going to wash their clothes more. They're going to be outside. You run into water hose in the summertime more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because they're going, instead of them working, now they're just lounging. And as they're lounging, they're consuming more water. So if you take the problems of all the people that is consuming, the consumers that's consuming the product, on top of the droughts that's happening out west, naturally you're going to have a problem pertaining to the state of California being able to have adequate water. It's the same way with electricity. It's the same way with our road system. Whenever you have architects, road engineers that are constantly having to add on to the city. I'm going to just use Nashville, Tennessee for an example. 30 years ago, Nashville, Tennessee built their road structure to handle into the future, give or take, for about, they was hoping, about for the next 25, 30 years. Well, that was at the rate that Nashville was increasing 30 plus years ago. Today, I don't forget how many people, I think it's something like 6,000 people that are contributing towards the population growth here in the state of Tennessee. And you cannot go to Nashville for the past 15 years and see where they don't have a major intersection construction project going on all over the city. They're steadily widening roads, they're steadily bulldozing, they're steadily doing this, steadily doing that. Somebody didn't put into the equation properly 30 plus years ago that this explosion of all these people that was going to be coming into that area was going to take an effect. And because of it, now they're lacking, and they have all kinds of traffic jams and all kinds of other problems come, whenever people are getting off of work or going into work. Same way in Jackson, Tennessee. And it seems like that people has gotten more irritable in their driving abilities. I don't know if they have forgotten how to drive, or if they're just in too big of a hurry, or if they just don't care pertaining to road rage. But it seems like that you can see the results, not just in Jackson, not just in Memphis, not just in Nashville, but you can see the results all over this country where people are having more accidents right now. And they may be just little minor bumper fender bender jobs, but then again, it's liable to be something major depending upon the speed and where they had the accident at. But people have lost a lot of their skill in the past year because of not driving out there on the roads. Maybe it's because too much pressure's on them. Maybe they feel like that if they hurry up and get to their job, maybe it'll pay more. Maybe they can't afford to lose their job. There's a lot of pressure on a lot of people right now that's affecting people all over this country. But as far as Texas goes, hooking up with the federal grid system, they should have done that 10 years ago to protect their consumers. Because Texas wants to be big and bad and independent, they have showed their stupidity by having all this pride by not going ahead and taking care of their people properly. Now they not only have problems with the electricity during the summer months, but they also have problems with the electricity in the winter months. We see what occurred this past winter down there whenever a cold front snapped all the way down to about Brownsville, Texas. It's really, really sad whenever we have people in these powerful positions that's supposed to make plans regardless whether it's the road commissioners or people planning out various things pertaining to what we're supposed to be doing today versus what we're going to be doing tomorrow versus what we're going to be doing a year from tomorrow. We're supposed to have people that sits down and projects these things. They haven't been doing that. They haven't been making the proper projections. And of course, who would have known that COVID would have hit last year towards shutting everything down temporarily for a while, that once more has contributed to the California water shortage of them not having adequate water. People are going to have to wake up. And like I told somebody a while ago, the more that people become crazy, out of focus, walk away from the Lord, get unstable, the more that the weather becomes unstable, because the Bible predicted years ago that these would all be the beginning of God's sorrows. The more unhinged that the human race becomes, regardless whether they be in America or on the other side of the continent, the more that the human race becomes unhinged, the more that the weather events become unhinged. I'm going to end this pertaining to what's going on right now on TV. Thanks again for listening, and good luck to each and every one of us as we adventure off into these adventures.
Kevin McCarthy, a greater role after he purged Liz Cheney for repeating the big lie would seem to be, the definition of insanity. Tim Miller, Donna Edwards, thank you both so much for spending some time with us today. We will stay on it together. Up next for us, the latest moves from the Biden administration to undo Trump's 4-year push to remake the judiciary in his image, and how these moves could impact what's next for the Supreme Court.
See, there you go. There you go there. Another example of the irregularities that's going on here in America whenever you have one administration that does this, and then you have another administration that does just the very opposite of what the other administration done. Then you have chaos. You have upset the apple cart, because you're swaying from one side of the pendulum to the other side of the pendulum. And the next thing you know, you become inadequate towards being able to do the job that the people have hired you to do, because now there's too much confusion and too much backbiting. That's where we are right now, folks. We're in a process of trying to move forward, but at the same time, we're having to cover up off of what other administrations has done before us, so that we can iron out the wrinkles and go on. The devil has moved into the American people's lives to the degree that now chaos is erupting all over America. And it's going to get worse before it gets better, especially if they don't repent, if they don't seek out a righteous, godly lifestyle. It's only going to get worse pertaining to the illegitimacies that's going on with mankind. Thanks again. Good luck to each and every one of us. Good luck to all of us. And as we end our program, shalom.